What if you could get your opponent to give you his weapon? Hello, my name is Michael Glenn, and in this episode of the Dojo Show, we're studying the kata fu. In this kata, you enter the space with a feeling of emptiness. Your opponent cuts at this emptiness, and he's throwing his sword away. One of the reasons you might do this, if you have a sword in your belt and you get thrown or knocked down, you have to be able to roll. And when you're rolling with a sword, if you don't have a hand on it, as you roll, all kinds of crazy stuff happens, right? You don't have any control over it if you don't keep a hand on it. So like I always say, whenever you have a sword in your belt, just like with a firearm, this is like your safety, okay? So you have this hand here to control it. It's like a safety to keep the sword from falling out or being taken away from you. Yep. So when you're rolling, you have to have that on. Okay. And if you had the sword in your belt and you got knocked over or thrown, you'd have to find a way to roll. Okay. So the next one we're going to do is backwards. So for backwards, same thing. I have to keep this hand on it. Okay. So I'm going to sit here, roll, and come up. Okay. More time. I just sit. Okay. When I do the right side, this hand can support me here. Okay. So I roll. See how that hand stays there to support me? Okay. When I do the left side, the hand normally goes back here. So on the left side, it goes that way. Okay. The next one is sideways roll. So from here, I'm going to have to pull it out still. Okay. So from here, if I go the other direction, all right, sideways. Some of you are not ready for this and you're really struggling with it. So one of the things to do, once you get your normal rolls decent, the next thing to try is to just roll with a weapon. And so that means holding it in the hand. Okay, so I hold it in one hand and I roll with it. Okay. You can try holding it in both hands and rolling with it. Okay. So for those of you who this is a real difficult roll using the sword, explore that. This kind of rolling with a sword is really advanced, and I didn't expect you all to get it. Some of you guys like Richard and James and Jesse, they've been doing it a long time, so they already have a lot of experience with it and they can pull it off. But when they first tried it, they were terrible. When I first tried it, I was terrible. It's just one of those things you got to practice a bunch and build up your confidence little by little. But the first times you try it, you're going to mess up a lot. And sometimes it's painful when you mess up. Sometimes you hit yourself with your own sword or whatever. So, yeah, it's just one of those things that takes practice. You can try with a shinai if you're worried about safety. And that might be a little safer. But bokken or shinai. I don't think it's a great idea to train with the really flexible foam weapons because they're very misleading. Like you think you're good and you're not. But you always want to lock it down, like have a safety on. Okay, that keeps it from falling out while you're rolling. So you can do that way. If you're doing two-handed, as Jesse mentioned, you could do it this way. What I would caution you though is do not, even though there's a saya, don't grab the blade, because sayas crack and split. And when you're rolling, that's the time when it's going to crack and split and cut into your hand. So I caution you not to grab the blade if you can help it. Try to keep your hand on the back of the blade, okay? And don't wrap around like this, because the minute you come down here and you put some pressure on the ground and on the blade, that thing can split open and get right into your hand. Okay, it happens. So you want to develop the habit of not grabbing the blade, even when it's in a saya. Okay. So this is still Gyokko that we're working on, and I'm starting from Honbu here. He's going to be in Daijodan, and he's going to cut. So he cuts this way. This hand I bring to where the tsuba is, and that hand strikes. And then I cut here. So this hand grabs, that strikes. So I'm just here. This hand strikes down so that you can pick up the tsuba. Okay, one more time. Down, and that's striking to Jinchu there. So I'm down here, this hand strikes down at the same time that I do that. So, shako ken here. So, without Will's hands, I'm clawing here so that my claws come up against the back of the tsuba. Okay, that's the way it goes. It claws down and pulls. This kata, it's here. Sorry, Will. So that just pulls there, and you see how that's pulled him into this strike. So, see this in the air first? Okay. This initial evasion, it's like all Muto dori, it's just here. It's just, you're just letting this miss you, okay? You don't want to evade too much. So I'm here, I can let this hand, this is the way I'm doing it, this hand's covering, this hand's kind of threatening, okay? So you see that it's just grazing me there, okay? It's really close. I'm not trying to evade too far. As he cuts here, I'm evading with the left foot, okay? And you see how I just let this go right by me. You don't want to evade too far. The way Sensei was doing it in Japan was allowing this elbow to make contact there, okay? And this is threatening. So this elbow is making this contact, okay? This is already lined up, but this hand drops to grab the tsuba, okay? You're hooking onto the tsuba and pulling. So here. So my elbow can even be up against his hands here. Okay, so then the next piece, so I'm there, the next piece opens up. See how tight that is? It's like right there, okay. One more time. So then this piece opens up, okay. I'm not grabbing the sword right now, I just want you guys to see that, the way that opens. See how I've opened up here? Okay. So you don't want to be, with your Muto dori, don't evade too far. You got to stay in there so you can still fight. If you evade too far, what happens is he'll turn and cut you. Okay? But if you're crowding him, now he can't turn and cut you. He's crashing right into you. You've crowded him. Okay. So the only way he could cut you, he'd have to step back or something, and then you would stay with him. Okay. So see if you can, don't evade too much, and then think about that body positioning where you step with the left foot to evade, and then you open up here. So this is cutting. So after you've grabbed the tsuba, however you grab it, you just maintain that grab and slice. So I receive here, right? As I pull this, you see what's happened to Bill. If he wants to keep hanging on, that's okay. I use the tsuba to attack and grind. Okay, so he's getting a face full of tsuba now, right? So last time I was in Japan, Sensei was doing a lot of things attacking with this tsuba. He was hitting people with it and attacking with it in lots of different ways. Okay. So I evaded here. See how I'm pulling him? Now this tsuba, I'm pressing into the bones on his arm. Okay. Eventually he wants to let go. You evade here, and maybe you can't pull this away. Maybe his grip is too fierce. Okay. Even though you hit him in the face and he's still hanging on. Okay, so we're gonna address that. So here, I'm gonna pull this way. So I receive here. I'm pulling from the kachira here. It's a tough fall, yeah. So I receive here. I'm letting this hand pick up the kashira. That's the base of the sword. Okay, so I pick that up. By picking that up, it gives me a lot of leverage to pull it out of his hand. Okay. So, see how he can't even hang on to that. Okay, you guys got the idea? Either Henka? Yeah. Sure, but the key is picking up the kachira. You should try one, Richard. Come on. So here, I'm picking up this kachira here. He didn't want to let go, so I punched it back towards him, yeah? It's hard to hang on, yeah? Okay, so add that piece in there. You guys manipulate the kashira here, the base, the pommel. I was just talking with Michael here, and we were talking about the that strike, because we're kind of glossing over that, right? Over this way. So when I'm pulling on this sword here, this strike, I pretty much laid it in there for him, but I did it without my body just so he would be okay. I don't know if you guys heard the sound. I did. It's a shitty feeling, yeah? So, you know, I just did it like this. But if I really lay that in there, he's probably not going to stay hanging onto the sword or fighting, you know. He's going to want to get out. Right? So the reason I brought him up there to show that on is because I knew he could handle it. Right? It takes a certain type of ukemi to be able to deal with strikes like that. And not all of you guys can handle that. So I know he can, that's why I did it to him. Anybody else want to experience it?
I think they just want to see what else I can handle.
If you guys want to, just come up and ask. I'll be happy to show you. So it's Jinchu is up here. Remember, you guys, remember what that's going to do when you strike like that. Okay? The guy who's receiving the strike, he's going to have a hard time hanging on to his sword. He's going to have a hard time standing. So remember that part. Don't really do it to each other, but just make sure you know that's what's happening. So just gonna grab my wrist here, okay? So I'm just gonna do tehodoki, and then there's that strike. You see the positioning is the same. So he grabs a hold of my wrist. I've already escaped here, okay? So then this strikes. I'm doing it very gently, but it can be very explosive too. So you see how that opens up, yeah? So. I didn't even use the other hand that time. Just the way, it's just this this basic tehodoki here opens it up. Yeah, the first one I did was with both hands. So he grabs. Okay, so now I've got this hand here. One of the things Soke does with tehodoki is he never really lets the guy get a hold. Okay, he always leaves the guy grasping there. But if he does get a hold, like he's got a hold of you, then you have to move with your body. So you move your hip to his hand. So I just move my hips to this hand. I was on his foot, so I had to let off so he didn't break his ankle. So move your hips to your hand. Instead of trying to pull, like he might be stronger than you, so instead of trying to pull your hand here, move your hips to your hand. Okay, try it please. So this time he's going to grab with the opposite hand across that way. Okay, so same thing, I open up here, but I'm going to use this elbow. Okay, so I use that elbow to help break the grip and start to control him. Okay, see where this elbow is? I'm not really doing it, but that's a strike there. Yeah. So it's a cross grab, like we're shaking hands, yeah? Except he's grabbing a hold of me. So I bring my hips to this hand. Yep. This kind of finger control Soke does a lot. Yeah. And it's very natural because this hand feeds it. Well, you guys maybe couldn't see, but that time I gave him a shot in the shoulder. So what I was doing to begin with was the elbow here to break the grip. Okay, but it could be at different places on the arm. In the shoulder too, yeah. Alright, explore that feeling, please. If you guys know basic tehodoki, it's this tehodoki here, yeah? So we're going back to the sword here. So I cover this and I can grab, you see how I've got her hand? Okay. So you're grabbing the back of the blade like this. Soke does this all the time. You pinch it. Okay. So I'm in here controlling with the elbow still. Okay. As I strike here, so I'm still controlling with this elbow. Controlling with this elbow, yeah. But I'm keeping his hands here. Okay. So then this becomes like tehodoki. The suka is the same as your wrist when you're doing tehodoki. So you manipulate that in the same way you would when you're doing tehodoki. See how I've kept his hands? So I can just pivot around that like that, yeah? You don't have to pull the sword away from him now. You're using the principles of leverage to maneuver and pivot but you're pivoting around this point mostly. Okay? So try a few like that, please. James, think of it like if you're holding there. So you grab in here, and then it becomes like a Honbu. I mean, it's not exactly like a Honbu, but it has the same principle, you know. Hey James, try to give yourself even more, so like down.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, you were like here even more. Because you notice like when you're holding that, if I try to pull it away from you here, it's harder. But if I do it here, feel the difference in the leverage. So then if I have 2 points. Yeah, so the way I'm getting there is I'm receiving here. As I strike, I come down. So as I'm striking him, I let this hand slide down and pick it up. So elbow is still connecting. See all this control I have here? I'm just controlling his hand and the sword together. So see how that comes up there? And then he's practically cutting himself. Yeah. So here.
Yeah. That's what I was wondering about. Yeah.
So this can be attacking, yeah? I have to keep control over this sword the whole time. And the fingers, yeah. So as Richard cuts here, I receive, and you see this hilt here, okay? It's a very natural thing to pick that up. Okay, you see I've controlled him even as he falls with the foot, okay? So this hilt is very natural to pick up and use the leverage of it. And then you use it like totoku and just guard, okay? See James's arm here? A little more. The leverage of the sword does the work for you. You guys heard that, yeah? Notice how he landed on the sword? So it's pretty bad. Give me that sword. So I'm low, I pick this Kashira up right away, okay? Here. Okay. Soke did a lot of this stuff when we were studying tsurugi in Japan, okay? A lot of this manipulating of the hilt, okay? So you guys try that out, see if you can get it. Be careful though, because when you start to twist it around, it starts to go flying and it'll easily hit somebody in the teeth. So be cautious. So I noticed a couple problems when I'm watching everybody. So what I'm watching is you guys are grabbing this and then just doing it with your hand, okay? And like, if I'm stronger than him, I can arm wrestle him like that, but there's a good chance it's not gonna work. He's gonna resist. He doesn't want me to take his sword. So it's gonna be a fight. And I don't wanna fight with him, right? So instead I put my hand on this and then I move my body. You see, just by moving my body, what that did. That was effortless for me. So here, I just move my body. And he can't even hold it anymore. It's very soft. Yeah, one more time. So I move my body here. And then Will's just left floating. He doesn't know what to do. But I've got the sword, so. So it's very key that you don't try to grab this and then wrestle it away from him with your strength. because you may or may not win that match. You know, if he's stronger than you, you're not going to win. So you have to do it by moving your body, and then the sword comes with you. Okay? Try it, please. See how I floated to this side this time. So this thread into his face is what was working. I wasn't worried about this so much. So I can just pivot here, yeah? You guys couldn't see, but Will got hit with the elbow. But I come to that pivot point. See this pivot point here? I'm hooking that, okay? But it's the threat here that's really disarming him. This is really important with weapons in general. The problem is not the weapon, it's the guy with the weapon. So if I spend a lot of time focused on this, then I'm fighting over this. And I should just destroy him, and then this isn't an issue. Yeah? You just get to this pivot point, okay? And he's the problem here. This pivot point here. That goes back to the original kata, yeah?